Okay, well, being part of bringing this lovely old theatre, cinema I should say, that was built as a cinema, back to life has been a journey interspersed with some real tragedies. I mean, deep, significant tragedies. Shakespeare would have enjoyed writing them up, I think, and enormous hilarity. We've had a lot of fun because we really tried to do something which is not just faintly ridiculous, it's absolutely absurd. To pick up an old cinema that was run down originally, it hadn't been in much use when I took it over in 1977, and make it come to life with live shows on a stage that didn't exist. And indeed in dressing rooms for the artists we didn't have. And I've actually had a number of wonderful lunches in London with some wonderful artists reminiscing about the time we provided them with the ultimate sort of facilities, including umbrellas to get from their caravans that were parked out the back into the stage or onto the stage without getting too wet. It was very, very primitive. Anyway, we finally built a stage, and because we built a stage we could now start putting on some bigger productions. And one of the early ones, which was a huge success, was called Steaming. It involved a group of wonderful actresses I should say, wonderful ladies, all having a great old natter in a sort of a combined steam bath and one of those places you go to make yourself look and feel wonderful. Well, it would have worked very well if it had actually worked at all. The set was brilliant, built in Brisbane, one of the best set builders in Australia. They trucked the whole thing over. An enormous set, which was the interior of a bath, a huge public bath. And the centrepiece was a very big, actual sort of pot. It wasn't just a sauna, it was a big bar, a big basin that had been built as a sort of public sauna. And it looked actually even bigger than it was, but it was big enough to cause total disruption to the electrical supplies, limited as they were in those days, for an old cinema. Bearing in mind with a cinema, all you've got to light up is one globe to run the thing, and you turn all the lights out anyway, so you don't need much power. To keep this steam bath thing going, we had to have more power than Subiaco could provide. Ultimately, we got a new substation put in by the then, I think, SEC. But we didn't have it then. So we boiled kettles of water to pour into this, thousands of litres of cold water. And these actresses had to jump in as if they're, and out, as if they're enjoying it. One of the most wonderful scenes was with the wonderful Amanda Muggleton. And bless her heart, she could actually jump into this cold bath because we couldn't heat it, and get out again with a smile on her face. It took enormous, it just showed me how talented they really were, because you would have thought they were getting into a nice warm bath. We knew damn well they were not, because it was freezing cold. It was the middle of winter. We didn't even have air conditioning in those days. The theatre was cold, the water was cold, and they looked like they were in a hot, steaming tub. So it proved the value of really good actors, and we've had so many of them over the years. Of course, we had some members of the public who liked to act up a bit too, because only just recently the Subiaco Council have contributed, thank goodness, for all our new seats. Now the theatre now has wonderful new seats. They're a delight to sit in, but we didn't. We had very old seats that had a performance routine of their own. They used to, if someone that they thought was a little bit too heavy to be carried, they would simply collapse. And if one seat collapsed, because they were connected in a row, it was a domino effect. The whole row went down. And this happened on one occasion when I was faced by a very large and very angry man coming to the box office. He said, "I paid $60 for this seat, what are you going to do about it?" And he had the whole seat tucked under his arm. He was furious. It had collapsed under him. But what made him even more angry when I went in to see the collateral damage was his wife sitting on the floor having hysterics of laughter. She thought it was the funniest thing that had ever happened in their married life, I think. Well, it didn't go down well at all. But nowadays that's not going to happen. We've got these wonderful new seats, and that's a great thanks to the Subi Council for doing that and providing the theatre with the means to get these seats installed, and you'll be very comfortable if you come to the old Regal Theatre now. We had an enormous number of wonderful actors over the years, and I could relay. There are some stories that I could not relay. I might write them down and they could be printed long after I've gone, but at the present moment I'd rather stay outside the invitation to have 3 meals a day and at Her Majesty's pleasure. So I'll have to be careful and choose carefully the sort of things we talk about. I mean, we can't talk about underpants, can we? I mean, that's a bit naughty, but we had a requirement for a London production that came out with several very good actors. We had to provide their clothing, and because it was a current production, that is, it was in modern dress, we had to get nice suits. They had to be suited, and ties and shirts and everything. We thought that was suits, ties and shirts was about it. No, it went further than that. They wanted socks, shoes and underpants. And one actor in particular wanted a kind of underpant we couldn't get in Australia. It was a French one, and it was the only one that he was satisfied with. We had to fly out a few pairs of these from Harrods, I think, in London, as I recall. That's where he used to get them. So I said, okay, we'll drop your name in and see what happens. And what happened, we got a parcel of underpants for them. Some of the things that you provide for the actors, of course, traditionally are put on, sometimes sold off after the production. We did have a few offers from some ladies who were quite keen to get the full regalia, including the underpants, and I don't believe we actually were able to oblige, because in these cases sometimes the actors, and in this case the actor, did take the entire wardrobe home with him. So he was very fussy about what he had. If it wasn't worth taking home, he wasn't well pleased. We had another one, a lovely guy, Alfred Marks. I can mention him because he's no longer with us, and I think I can feel safe enough to say that he was one of the most difficult but professional actors I've ever worked with. He was incredible on stage and incredible off stage, incredibly difficult. He had to sleep with a sort of Shenzhou approach to life. It had to be north-south or east-west, I can't remember, whatever, but we couldn't get him to sleep anywhere. We had a beautiful unit in South Perth. The next morning I was required to shift him somewhere else because he heard the monkeys in the zoo howling. We shifted him from there to a lovely unit up in Kings Park. We had to shift him from there the next day because he heard the kookaburras cackling away in the morning, and he was apparently woken up by that. By the time we'd run out of good units, I tried another one somewhere else, and I can't remember what the problem was, but the bid was the wrong way around or something like that. I said to Mr. Marks, well, look, we do have a budget. I'll provide it to you. You can now get your own team to search out where you would like to stay, and we will pay for it. We'll cover the cost. Because I suddenly discovered that whatever we did, he'd find something wrong with it. As soon as he'd done it, it wasn't quite so easy to complain. So that was one way of sorting out the problem. But we've had a lot of fun over the years with some wonderful artists. I could regale you with hundreds of stories of some of these things, but I think it might be time to shut up, as they say, and exit stage left.